On the Timberwolves, who's the second most important player in a series that you cannot go down?
It's a good question.
We've seen him without Cat. We've seen him without Rudy.
Ant's obviously one. Two would be...
Who'd you more afraid of?
Honestly,
Ant and Rudy or Ant and Cat?
I'm going to say something and people might be shocked by this. I think the second most important player on the Timberwolves is Jaden McDaniels.
Explain.
Because if Jaden goes down, now Ant has to guard the best player a lot of times. And now he's doing both on both ends. So now you're asking way too much of him in a playoff series. He'd wear down. They don't have any other defender at the wing spot. They signed TJ Warren. He's not a defender. They signed Monte Morris. He's not a defender. He's like 6 foot. They have no wing defenders.
That's a great, you know what? I like your answer because they have so many good bigs that if one goes down, you plug in a Nas Reed, you plug in somebody.
That's why I can't say
the impact wouldn't be the same.
I can't say Rudy because I've seen Rudy down and I've seen the success they've had. Again, Rudy's vital. He's huge.
Defensive player of the year this year.
Yeah, I hear all of that, but like they have a Carl. You have a Nas. And the same goes for all the other two. If Nas goes down, you have Carl and Rudy. If Carl goes down, you have Rudy and Nas. So you have enough there. You have Conley. You have the point guard in today's era, man. Like, is if you have a star 2 guard, you don't got to do too much.
Right.
Mike's got to run a set and hit open threes. That's about it. And he's important to the team too. All these guys I'm naming are very important to this team. Jaden McDaniels' job is to guard the best player every single night and score above double digits. He's got to be around 12, 13 points a game, which he does. And he's got to go guard. If he goes down, then now Ant has to guard the best player in the fourth quarter and score and close out a game. He's going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
They will not win without Jaden McDaniels. When Jaden went down last year in the playoffs, it was a big blow for our team because we're like, man, that's putting a lot of pressure on Ant now. So Jaden McDaniels is the second most important player on the Timberwolves.
I love that answer. The Cavs, who's the second most important?
I gotta go Garland. Too many times has he touched the ball. Garland. He has too much onus on him to perform. Him and Donovan historically haven't been the greatest together, but I would go with Garland still.
I think I know your answer for this one, but the Clippers' second most important player in a series.
I think it's James.
Wow. Okay, I thought you were gonna go PG for sure.
I think it's James. Kawhi's number one. Kawhi's their guy.
Obviously.
Paul's job is to score. Get after on defense a little bit too when he can. Him and Norman Powell. Obviously, Paul's better than Norman, but essentially they score, play some defense.
You can make up what Paul does by committee, is what you're saying.
Yes. There's things that Paul George does that you can find from other players. Now, they can't do it as well as Paul, but collectively they can maybe make up a Paul's absence. There's not one person on that team that can do what James does. There's no one that can see the floor like him on that team. No one on the team has vision other than James. He's the only player on the team that has vision.
Yeah, and a point guard's always been an issue for them during this Kawhi era with the Clippers.
And people are like, well, Russ averaged 10 assists, triple-double. He has vision. Russ got 10 assists off being a freak athlete, bro. It was just driving and ramming it down your throat. And because he was always at you, he was finding guys open for threes, jumpers, lobs, whatever. That's how he got his assists. It's like when Derrick Rose gets 7 assists, not because he's like that Luka Doncic seeing behind his head, like he's just blowing by his defender. Someone's helping, he's pass.
Right.
It's a reactive assist. It's not the same. James manipulates plays to fool defenses and sees it a mile ahead. It's just different. But I played with both of them at the same time on the basketball court and seen how each of them play and read and dissect the game. So when James plays really well, they're really good. I think James is the second most important player on that team.
We've talked about this before, but a player going into the NBA that is unable to create, let's say Jalen Green can't really create for others, but he's obviously such a talented freak athlete and a scorer. Could you develop that during your career, or is that something you just kind of have?
You can develop it into what I said the first. You can develop him into being, I'm not saying Russ himself, a Russ-like assist.
Right. But you're not going to go from this to like Rondo.
You
There's no bridge there.
You can't teach Rondo. You can't teach Luka, Trae Young, like that type of shit where these guys are like seeing stuff. You can't teach that type of stuff, bro.
Yeah. But just to know when to get off the ball, maybe is something that you can
Chris
get better
Paul, like that type of stuff, you can't teach that. You can't teach how Chris Paul and Luka and them like manipulate games and just like Magic Johnson, like that. Like those dudes are like the way Jokic, the way they get the ball, it's chess.
They
It's
see
like,
things before it happens.
Yeah, they're like, let me see. Look at this dude. Look at you. Like he knows when you don't think he sees you, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's.
Remember that Jokic pass the other day we saw? We were watching the game together against the Suns. He got double teamed, was calm, and just threw it right where only Aaron Gordon.
And it was just, it's such a simple play.
You stopped and you were like, no one's going to notice this. You know how hard that is to do when you're double teamed? Most people panic. And
most guys would have thrown it 2 left and would have went out of bounds.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. I think you could teach Jalen Green to use his athleticism to get past his defender, which he already knows how to do. And now when he goes to launch, if he sees a corner 3, throw it to the corner. That's the type of stuff you can get him, which would be great, by the way.
Right.
So I think he can be taught that.
The last one I want to ask you is, who's the second most important player in the Thunder?
Oh, Chet.
And I knew you were going to say that because I was talking to a person that works for an NBA team recently, and they were telling me how important it is this day and age to have a stretch 5 and how much harder it is to game plan for a team that has a stretch 5. Listen, the Thunder, Shea's having a great year. He had a great year last year. It was first team All-NBA. What's the difference? Why are they, top seed in the West?
2 things. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's been 2 guys who have emerged. Jalen Williams is a whole different level of player now. He's just getting better and better and better. And then Chet Holmgren is why they're playing like this. Shea was getting buckets last year.
Yeah.
Now, is he better this year? Sure. So you got to give him that. Jalen's taking a step. Giddey's actually like taking a step backwards, to be completely honest. He's had a lot going on this year. So I think this is a weird year for Giddey. He's had a weird year. He needs to get in the lab. Just get back to the basics. He needs to improve his shooting. People let him shoot the entire game. He's like wide open.
Yeah.
It's like weird defense they're playing against him. But Chet has unlocked that team to where they went from being like to like these teams are like contending and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not even a question.
We had the stretch 4 that emerged, and whoever created it was the Orlando Magic with, Rashard Lewis or Ryan Anderson or something like that. And then it seemed like every team needed a stretch 4 to be, good and compete. And now, is it going to get to a point where you need a stretch 5? Like, is there ever going to be a top pick that's a big that can't shoot, like a James Wiseman a couple years ago? Like, will that ever? Or you need to shoot now. You have, you look around the NBA. You have your Miles Turners, right? You have the guys that your stretch 5s, Jaren Jackson Jr., right? Wendell Carter is a version of that too, where he's capable. It unlocks a team's offense, right, and creates space for a guy like Shea.
I think there's always room for all. We always say like the game's evolving into something, and you can't do something until someone wins with something. It's like bigs are dying. We're going small ball, and then Jokic wins, and now we're like, it's changing already. So it's just like, I don't ever like to do that, but sure, right now, yeah, it seems like every big can shoot. Where you're Jokic, Karl Towns, Vujovic. If you're not going to be a shooter, you have to be an extreme defender. So
if you can get both like Chet, that's when you win the lottery.
That's like you win the lottery, exactly. But like if you aren't Jokic or any of these other guys, Karl Towns, then you got to be Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
You got to be down there and your defense is #1 in the NBA and you're making a difference. You got to be Jared Allen, just going after everything, blocking every damn thing.
Right.
Mitchell Robinson. If you come in the paint, it don't even matter if he's blocks it or not. He's altering shots. Then that's the case. Yeah. You have to be a freak athlete, long athlete, athletic, 7 foot, big size. Otherwise, if you're not that, you gotta have a strap.
Right. So like Marc Gasol and the Raptors, when they won, he was able to stretch the floor. Then Brook Lopez goes to the Bucks, completely changes their team and opens it up for everybody. I just feel like the stretch 5 is going to almost be a must going forward. I feel like
very vital. I like the second player game. I like the second best player game because obviously everyone knows who the best players on every team. But it's that second best player that really defines.
And it's not even the second
team.
best. I think the most impactful in a series.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Thank you for correcting me because it's the most impactful to their team or the most important, second most important. Because obviously, like the second best player for the Timberwolves would be Karl Towns or Rudy, like whatever you want to define that as. But I said Jaden McDaniels is the second most important. For the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's the best player by stats and everything else by every measure. Julius Randle would be the second best player. In my eyes, if you're asking me, the most important to that team's success is Jalen Brunson 1 and OG number 2. OG changes their entire team.
Yeah.
He's a better, more physical version of a Josh Hart. You can't shoot like DiVincenzo.
Well, he's the best version of what that kind of player is.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the best of the NBA of that version.
Yeah.
So like that little hard-nosed, hustle, physical, run around, just do stuff like that. OG is really, he's second for the Knicks.